Okay folks, so in this video here I'm going to show a closer look at a really bright star that was coming up over the Bigby foothills to the east back on October 19th this year, just about a week ago. And yeah, because today is the 26th, so yeah. And you can see it here in this time-lapse capture rising up. So right here, oh, right in this spot right here is where it's coming up at. And it was just kind of interesting because the star map kept wanting to identify it as Uranus. So, I don't know. It was behaving and acting like a star. It was definitely fixed. But the camera was wanting to focus in on some more interesting stuff around it and inside of the central part of it, of the light source. So I'm going to show a little bit more of that. And that's this capture right here where you can see it was glowing really, really bright and very colorful. And the camera kept wanting to focus in on other stuff going on around it. And at times it was taking on the shape and the form of that glowing heart, like what I talked about before in the previous videos, mentioning the character Lazar in Lake Marigot. With his Lightcraft designer handbook and everything, but there are times here when it kind of looks like the shape and the outline of a heart, and I'm going to show that frame by frame as well. And then I want to go back to October 26th, 3 years ago today, Guard Dogs on Duty. That shows more of Arcturus. Where did it go? I know it. Yeah, right in here. And this was from October 26th, 2019, and today is the 26th. So this was supposed to have been the star Arcturus. Once again, the camera was wanting to focus in on, I don't know, just what looked like fixed mechanical structure. More of that spike stuff, and then some really interesting focal points where it kind of looks like it's focusing in, like right there, like it's wanting to focus in on the shape and the outline and the form of that classic star shape that, we were taught as kids, as really young kids were taught some of these geometric shapes. And this was one of the captures where that light source was actually representing what looks like the shape and the outline of the classic star. And this was from, again, because I'm repetitive, I gotta say it again, October 26, 2019, 3 years ago today when I captured this. So I've been noticing this structure around these light sources for quite a while. And this was around the same time that my husband and I were noting that there were, just other things that were off with some of these tracker apps. Like sometimes it would show the sun where the moon's supposed to be, or the moon where the sun's supposed to be. And my little plastic travel compass was acting kind of funny at the time. So I'm going to show a little bit more of that frame by frame as well. And the audio that I'm going to play for the review on these frame by frames is from the Principles for Governing the Use of Outer Spaces. And this particular segment that I'm going to play pertains to the use of satellites for television broadcasting, for international television broadcasting. So that's going to be the audio as I look through these with the magnifier and look at them a little bit closer that I'm going to play in the background. So anyway, that's what this video is going to be on, is these previous captures of what's supposed to be stars in the sky. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to start these frame by frame now and take a look at these frame by frame and play the audio for direct television broadcasting using satellites.
Principles governing the use by states of artificial Earth satellites for international direct television broadcasting. A. Purposes and objectives. 1. Activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite should be carried out in a manner compatible with the sovereign rights of states, including the principle of non-intervention, as well as with the right of everyone to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas as enshrined in the relevant United Nations instruments. 2. Such activities should promote the free dissemination and mutual exchange of information and knowledge in cultural and scientific fields, assist in educational, social, and economic development, particularly in the developing countries, enhance the qualities of life of all peoples, and provide recreation with due respect to the political and cultural integrity of states. 3. These activities should accordingly be carried out in a manner compatible with the development of mutual understanding and the strengthening of friendly relations and cooperation among all states and peoples in the interest of maintaining international peace and security. B. Applicability of international law. 4. Activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite should be conducted in accordance with international law, including the Charter of the United Nations, the Treaty on Principles governing the activities of states in the exploration and use of outer space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, one of the 27th of January 1967, the relevant provisions of the International Telecommunication Convention and its radio regulations, and of international instruments relating to friendly relations and cooperation among states and to human rights. See rights and benefits. 5. Every state has an equal right to conduct activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite and to authorize such activities by persons and entities under its jurisdiction. All states and peoples are entitled to and should enjoy the benefits from such activities. Access to the technology in this field should be available to all states without discrimination on terms mutually agreed by all concerned. D. International cooperation. 6. Activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite should be based upon and encourage international cooperation. Such cooperation should be the subject of appropriate arrangements. Special consideration should be given to the needs of the developing countries in the use of international direct television broadcasting by satellite for the purpose of accelerating their national development. E. Peaceful settlement of disputes. 7. Any international dispute that may arise from activities covered by these principles should be settled through established procedures for the peaceful settlement of disputes agreed upon by the parties to the dispute in accordance with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations. F. State responsibility. 8. States should bear international responsibility for activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite carried out by them or under their jurisdiction, and for the conformity of any such activities with the principles set forth in this document. 9. When international direct television broadcasting by satellite is carried out by an international intergovernmental organization, the responsibility referred to in paragraph 8 above should be borne both by that organization and by the states participating in it. G. Duty and right to consult. 10. Any broadcasting or receiving state within an international direct television broadcasting satellite service established between them requested to do so by any other broadcasting or receiving state within the same service should promptly enter into consultations with the requesting state regarding its activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite, without prejudice to other consultations which these states may undertake with any other state on that subject. H. Copyright and neighboring rights. 11. Without prejudice to the relevant provisions of international law, states should cooperate on a bilateral and multilateral basis for protection of copyright and neighboring rights by means of appropriate agreements between the interested states or the competent legal entities acting under their jurisdiction. In such cooperation, they should give special consideration to the interests of developing countries in the use of direct television broadcasting for the purpose of accelerating their national development. I. Notification to the United Nations. 12. In order to promote international cooperation in the peaceful exploration and use of outer space, states conducting or authorizing activities in the field of international direct television broadcasting by satellite should inform the Secretary General of the United Nations, to the greatest extent possible, of the nature of such activities. On receiving this information, the Secretary General should disseminate it immediately and effectively to the relevant specialized agencies, as well as to the public and the international scientific community. J. Consultations and agreements between states. 13. A state which intends to establish or authorize the establishment of an international direct television broadcasting satellite service shall without delay notify the proposed receiving state or states of such intention and shall promptly enter into consultation with any of those states which so requests. 14. An international direct television broadcasting satellite service shall only be established after the conditions set forth in paragraph 13 above have been met and on the basis of agreements and/or arrangements in conformity with the relevant instruments of the International Telecommunication Union and in accordance with these principles. 15. With respect to the unavoidable overspill of the radiation of the satellite signal, the relevant instruments of the International Telecommunication Union shall be exclusively applicable. See Principles relating to remote sensing of the Earth from outer space. Annex. Principles relating to remote sensing of the Earth from outer space. Principle 1. For the purposes of these principles with respect to remote sensing activities. A. The term remote sensing means the sensing of the Earth's surface from space by making use of the properties of electromagnetic waves emitted, reflected, or diffracted by the sensed objects, for the purpose of improving natural resources management, land use, and the protection of the environment. B. The term primary data means those raw data that are acquired by remote sensors borne by a space object and that are transmitted or delivered to the ground from space by telemetry in the form of electromagnetic signals, by photographic film, magnetic tape, or any other means. C. The term processed data means the products resulting from the processing of the primary data needed to make such data usable. D. The term analyzed information means the information resulting from the interpretation of processed data, inputs of data, and knowledge from other sources. E. The term remote sensing activities means the operation of remote sensing space systems, primary data collection and storage stations, and activities in processing, interpreting, and disseminating the processed data. Principle 2. Remote sensing activities shall be carried out for the benefit and in the interests of all countries, irrespective of their degree of economic, social, or scientific and technological development, and taking into particular consideration the needs of the developing countries. Principle 3. Remote sensing activities shall be conducted in accordance with international law, including the Charter of the United Nations, the Treaty on Principles governing the activities of states in the exploration and use of outer space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, and the relevant instruments of the International Telecommunication Union. Principle 4. Remote sensing activities shall be conducted in accordance with the principles contained in Article 1 of the Treaty on Principles governing the activities of states in the exploration and use of outer space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, which, in particular, provides that the exploration and use of outer space shall be carried out for the benefit and in the interests of all countries, irrespective of their degree of economic or scientific development, and stipulates the principle of freedom of exploration and use of outer space on the basis of equality. These activities shall be conducted on the basis of respect for the principle of full and permanent sovereignty of all states and peoples over their own wealth and natural resources, with due regard to the rights and interests, in accordance with international law, of other states and entities under their jurisdiction. Such activities shall not be conducted in a manner detrimental to the legitimate rights and interests of the said state. Principle 5. States carrying out remote sensing activities shall promote international cooperation in these activities. To this end, they shall make available to other states opportunities for participation therein. Such participation shall be based in each case on equitable and mutually acceptable terms. Principle 6. In order to maximize the availability of benefits from remote sensing activities, states are encouraged, through agreements or other arrangements, to provide for the establishment and operation of data collecting and storage stations and processing and interpretation facilities, in particular within the framework of regional agreements or arrangements wherever feasible. Principle 7. States participating in remote sensing activities shall make available technical assistance to other interested states on mutually agreed terms. Principle 8. The United Nations and the relevant agencies within the United Nations system shall promote international cooperation, including technical assistance and coordination in the area of remote sensing. Principle 9. In accordance with Article IV of the Convention on Registration of Objects Launched into Outer Space 4 and Article 11 of the Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of States in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, a state carrying out a program of remote sensing shall inform the Secretary-General of the United Nations. It shall, moreover, make available any other relevant information to the greatest extent feasible and practicable to any other state, particularly any developing country that is affected by the program, at its request. Principle 10. Remote sensing shall promote the protection of the Earth's natural environment. To this end, states participating in remote sensing activities that have identified information in their possession that is capable of averting any phenomenon harmful to the Earth's natural environment shall disclose such information to states concerned. Principle 11. Remote sensing shall promote the protection of mankind from natural disasters. To this end, states participating in remote sensing activities that have identified, processed data, and analyzed information in their possession that may be useful to states affected by natural disasters, or likely to be affected by impending natural disasters, shall transmit such data and information to states concerned as promptly as possible. Principle 12. As soon as the primary data and the processed data concerning the territory under its jurisdiction are produced, the said state shall have access to them on a non-discriminatory basis and on reasonable cost terms. The said state shall also have access to the available analyzed information concerning the territory under its jurisdiction in the possession of any state participating in remote sensing activities on the same basis and terms, taking particularly into account the needs and interests of the developing countries. Principle 13. To promote and intensify international cooperation, especially with regard to the needs of developing countries, a state carrying out remote sensing of the Earth from space shall, upon request, enter into consultations with a state whose territory is sensed in order to make available opportunities for participation and enhance the mutual benefits to be derived therefrom. Principle 14. In compliance with Article VI of the Treaty on Principles Governing the Activities of States in the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, states operating remote sensing satellites shall bear international responsibility for their activities and assure that such activities are conducted in accordance with these principles and the norms of international law, irrespective of whether such activities are carried out by governmental or non-governmental entities or through international organizations to which such states are parties. This principle is without prejudice to the applicability of the norms of international law on state responsibility for remote sensing activities. Principle 15. Any dispute resulting from the application of these principles shall be resolved through the established procedures for the peaceful settlement of disputes.